Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Today we are doing polygons on the coordinate plane. Our learning goal is that students will be able to plot points on the coordinate plane and find the area and perimeter of the figure. If you need to pause this video at any time to slow things down or write things down, please do so. Remember, to find area of parallelograms or rectangles or squares, we multiply the base times the height. To find the area of triangles, which is a three-sided shape, we multiply the base times the height and then divide it by 2. To find perimeter, that's just adding up all of the sides together. So whether it's a triangle, we would add up all 3 sides together. If it was a square, we would add all 4 sides together. Okay, so for perimeter, we're just adding them all up together. Okay. Sorry, if you needed to pause this to write this down, that's a good idea. Okay, so we are finding the area and perimeter of this figure. So the first thing we need to do is graph the figure. So this is all in quadrant 1, by the way. Quadrant 1. It doesn't show all 4 quadrants here. It just shows you quadrant 1 for this particular graph. Okay, so our R is in coordinate or ordered pair 1, 1. So we go over to positive 1, up to positive 1. That's R. Okay, S is positive 1, positive 7. So we go over to positive 1, up to positive 7. That's S. T is positive 5, positive 7. So we go to the right to positive 5 and then up to positive 7. That's T. And then the last one is U, positive 5, positive 1. Okay, so this is our shape. It is a rectangle. I'm terrible at drawing lines on this thing. That was actually a pretty good one. Okay. Okay, so now we are finding the area and the perimeter. So what I like to do is I like to do jumps. I think those are the easiest. So from S to T, we're going to jump 1, 2, 3, and 4. From T to U, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then if this side is 4, this side's going to be 4. And if this side is 6, this side's going to be 6. So remember, for perimeter, we're just adding all sides together. So perimeter is P, so P equals 4 plus 6 plus 4 plus 6. 4 plus 6 is 10, so 10 plus 10 is 20. So 20 units is the perimeter. To find the area, since this is a rectangle, we are doing base times height. Anytime you see 2 letters next to each other, that means we are multiplying them together. So BH stands for base times height. Our base is 4, and then our height is 6. So 4 times 6 gives me 24. And it doesn't tell us what these units are. It doesn't say that the units are inches or miles or feet. It just says they're units, right? Actually, it doesn't say anything. It's just on the coordinate plane or a graph. So anytime it doesn't tell you, though, and it's on a graph, you're just going to put units, and then you're going to square those units. Because anytime we're talking about area, our answer is always squared. So our 2 answers are this one and this one. And notice what we learned yesterday with finding the distance between 2 points helped us here. Because we needed the distance between S and T to figure out what this side and this side were. And we needed to figure out what the distance between T and U to figure out what side S and R is equal to. So that is how the distance, learning the distance, finding the distance between 2 coordinates helps us here. Make sure that all of this is written down before you move on with us. Okay, number 2, we're going to again graph these coordinates. So E is at 3, 6, so we're going to go to positive 3 up to positive 6. F is at 7, 6, so we're going to go over to 7 up to positive 6. G is at positive 7, positive 2, and H is at positive 3, positive 2. So here is our shape. Looks like a square to me, but let's figure that out. So from E to F, 1, 2, 3, and 4 units. From F to G, 1, 2, 3, and 4 units. So if this side is 5, then if this side is 4, then this side is also 4. And if this side is 4, then this side is 4. If we are finding the perimeter, we are adding all of our sides together. So 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 4 is 12, plus 4 is 16. So our perimeter is 16 units. And then area, again, for a square, it's base times height. Our base here is 4, and our height is also 4. So 4 times 4. And 4 times 4 also gives us 16. So our perimeter and our area for this particular problem are both the same. Except for perimeter, we use just units, and for area, we use units squared. So it's 16 units squared for area, and perimeter is just 16 units. Okay, make sure you get all of this written down before moving on with us. Okay, now this is a parallelogram. It's already given us the shape. Okay, so parallelograms are a little bit tricky. Well, they're trickier than rectangles and squares at least. We want to count from this point to this point. Okay, you don't want to go as far over, you just want to go to where the shaded area is. Okay, from this point to this point. You could also do it up here from this point to this point. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the bottom would be the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, we cannot count the sides here, which is why we're only finding the area for this one, because you cannot count a diagonal side here. You can't count this as like, oh, this is a half a square. Do you know what I mean? You can count the height, but the way we count the height is from the bottom to the very top, and it has to be a right angle. Okay, these are all slanted. Okay, the ones on the very ends are slanted. So we want to count this one straight up the middle. So this will be our height. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So our height is also 5. So if we're finding the area of a parallelogram, it's base times height, and our base is 5, and our height is also 5. So 5 times 5 gives me 25. So our area is 25 units squared. Now, sometimes, like on FSA, they may have the height be off to the side. So it may look something like this. It may have like a dotted line out here to the side showing you that this is the height. And they usually tell you. So if they said that this was the height, it was 5 centimeters or whatever, they can write it off to the side for you. Sometimes they'll ask you to find the perimeter for a shape like this, but if they're asking you to find the perimeter, they're going to need to tell you what these sides are equal to. For example, this is 5, this is 5, this is 5, and this is 5. Or they would say this is 6, and this is 6. Does that make sense? If they're asking you, this question wasn't asking you, but if it was asking you to do the perimeter, they would need to give you what at least one of the side lengths was equal to. Okay? Next one, we are finding the area and perimeter of this figure. I'm going to outline this figure a little better. Okay. What I would do for this one is break it down into two shapes and then add our answers together. So I would break it down here. So now it looks like we've got a rectangle and a square. So I'm going to do two areas and then add them both together. So base times height and base times height. So our base and our height for this bottom one, our base is 1, 2, and our height is 1, 2. So area equals 2 times 2, and 2 times 2 gives me 4. So the area for this bottom one is 4. And here, our base is, well, I can do it up top, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And our height is 1, 2, 3, 4. So our base is 5 and our height is 4. And the reason we didn't count this entire side for the area is that we broke it down into smaller shapes. So we were finding just the area for this shape. That's the 5 times 4. And then we were finding just the area of this shape. That's the 2 times 2. So 5 times 4 gives me 20. And we already did the 2 times 2, which gives me 4. And then we're just adding those together. 20 plus 4 gives me 24 units squared. And you should be able to, you may not always be able to, especially with a parallelogram like we just did in the last problem. But when we are given squares, you should be able to count all of the squares, and they should equal 24. So if we counted all of these in the middle here, we should get 24. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you kept doing this for the whole thing, you should be able to get 24 squares. So when you've got rectangles, that's really easy to find the area because you can just count the squares. But don't always rely on that. You'll need to rely on the formulas base times height, because in problems like our last one where we had, this one is a parallelogram. I know it's hard to see behind that. Our parallelogram, we cannot just count the squares here because not all of the squares are filled. This one is like just a little bit a little bit filled. So it's hard to say, oh, that's 0.3 tenths filled. We can't say that because we don't know for sure that it's exactly 3 tenths. So always do base times height when it's a parallelogram. And usually for squares and rectangles, that's going to be most beneficial as well. Okay, so the area is 24 units squared. I'm going to clear all of this so that we can do the perimeter now. So per perimeter, we're just adding up all the sides together. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we add all these together. 5 plus 6 plus 2. Goodness. Plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. 5 and 6 is 11. 11 plus 2 is 13. 13 plus 2 is 15. 15 plus 3 is 18. And 18 plus 4 gives us 22. So our perimeter is 22 units. Remember, units is never squared. It's just units. Okay, and last one. We're just finding the area here because it's a triangle. So for area for a triangle, we need to do base times height and then divide it by 2. Our base is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And our height, remember, is from the bottom to the very top. I'll do it in blue. From the bottom to the very top. And it has to be somewhere where it's perpendicular to the bottom. So a right angle here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's 4. Okay, so our our base is 6, and our height is 4, and then we'll divide by 2 in the end. So 6 times 4, that gives me 24. And then we still have to divide by 2. 24 divided by 2 is 12, so 12 units squared. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you tomorrow.